This is Zoe and Megan. I'm pointing upwards because that's where they are on my screen, but we'll edit it to look better later. But I'm so glad to have you guys here. Does one of you want to talk about Women of D&D and let the people know who you guys are and what you do?
Megan, go.
Okay, well, so we, me and Zoe together are Women of D&D. You find us only on Twitter and Instagram at the moment, but essentially what we do is find women creators in and around the D&D community, whether that be people making dice or DMs or any women contributing to the community, and we put features on them to sort of uplift their voices and shine a spotlight. And we have had the lovely Indrani as a feature. So obviously, it is quality content.
It is. I love what you guys do. I think it's an incredible space that you have created. I had a little bit of a fangirl moment when Satine Phoenix saw my interview and reached out to me. And I was just like, what is this? What is happening? You guys have created such a wonderful space. And it's let me meet and just see so many incredible creators. I absolutely love what you guys do, and I'm so glad that you're both here.
Thank you. Oh, that's amazing.
That's so lovely to hear. This is exactly the sort of thing that we want to do. We connect creators in the community, and we it's great that Satine reached out to you.
I still fangirl about it. I sent a screenshot to my D&D group and I was like, so this happened, and they're like, whoa, are you losing their minds? And she's a lovely person, and I loved the interview you guys did with her as well. It was so good.
It was
lovely.
A fangirl moment for us as well.
I can imagine. She's such a pillar in the community. But we love Satine, but this is about Women of D&D and the two of you, so let's all right. So tell me how you guys started, because this, I believe, is a quarantine project that began after you guys.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So let me see. We first started a year ago, because we're filming this on our birthday. Yeah. And it was kind of this project. We'd started playing D&D not that long before. We're so new, we totally accept we're so new. And we were just sort of searching for other sort of communities of women in the D&D space. And immediately nothing jumped out as doing what we're doing.
Right.
So we sort of text each other should we do it? Could we do that? Can we do that? And we just kind of, sort of knocked our heads together and came up with an idea. And it's kind of what it's evolved from there, really.
That is, Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to say, it was it came off on the back of we were talking about. We were both got into Critical Role, which I think is a massive avenue for a lot of people getting into it, and we just sort of noticed that as well, that the women on the cast, as great as they're wonderful, I'm a super fan of them, but they don't get as much kind of praise or maybe get more criticism than the guys do, and it's just sort of the way things kind of end up. So that was another sort of thing, that we need to show that there are more women in this community than people think, and who are doing just as much work as the guys are. So they need to be spotlit and shown how good they are.
Which you guys are doing amazingly well, because like I mentioned earlier, I've met so many great people thanks to what you guys do. But you mentioned that you started playing D&D not too long ago. And I want to know what your first foray into TTRPGs was and what that was like. How did you end up getting into the space?
Do you want to go first, Zoe, or shall I?
I can go first.
Go ahead.
So I actually had a kind of go at D&D a long, long time ago, back in college when I was very wee. And it was through rejoining the community, I realised it was actually a lot of women's experiences of D&D. It's you join a group, it's not great, you're maybe the only woman or one of very few women there, and the group I was in, not everyone was negative, but there was just a few negative people there, and it kind of felt a little bit unwelcoming. I kind of felt very much like the girl at the table, even though I wasn't the only girl at the table. I think we probably both felt a bit like that. I don't really remember rolling dice. Maybe I did, and I have a real bad memory, but I don't specifically remember rolling many dice. It was just a pants experience.
I think
so it kind of put me off for a long time. And then, a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more, my husband started playing with his friends, and I was just like, no. I had that negative experience before, and I was like, no. And then they were playing around our place, and I was up in the studio working, and they just would not stop laughing downstairs. They were obviously having like the best time. So I was just like, what are you doing? So I sort of like took my sketchbook and I sat downstairs and I was like, it looks quite good actually, yeah. And then they started a new campaign, and I heard that Megan was playing, and I was like, okay, I'm in. I bought dice, I'm in.
amazing. Lovely. Megan, what about you? How did you get into it?
Well, for me, it was kind of like a slow burn kind of process. I'd never played before. I've always been into the high fantasy kind of, everyone starts with Lord of the Rings and things like that. And I've always loved the whole elves, dwarves, fighting dragons kind of fantasy realm. I mean, that's peak entertainment for me. But I started listening to Critical Role just out of nowhere. I think I just found it randomly because I used to listen to podcasts at my old job, so I could listen all day. And obviously Critical Role episodes are about like 4 to 5 hours long. So it kept me entertained all day. And the more and more I listened, the more and more I was like, I really want to have a go at this game. Like I need to find someone I can play with because this is amazing. This sounds so much fun. And then I found out that Zoe's husband was, who's also an old friend of mine, had a group that was playing, and I started talking to him about it to say like, hey, can I join your group? Maybe we can have a campaign. And then it just kind of, I think, it's all sort of snowballed together, and we all started playing, all at the same time in the same group. And it's just been an absolute whirlwind ever since. It's so much fun. We've not even finished our first campaign, and I've already started DMing my own campaign,
Awesome.
which is completely homebrewed and complete madness, but I think it's okay.
Do you play in your campaign? So, tell me more about the campaign. I want to hear about the setting and what you guys get up to.
Oh, for my homebrew, it's based off of nothing. It is literally just out of my brain. I didn't even take. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm making up.
That's 99% of DMs. So
exactly. So I feel like I've got it down to a T in the sense that I'm just making it up as I go along. I have a sort of overarching theme. I've created this world called Caldora that is comprised of like island nations that are all sort of, there's very, very rich people and there's very, very poor people. And then there's this group of adventurers in the middle who want to make the world a better place.
Classic.
And at the moment, I think they're currently on the route of trying to overthrow the Thieves Guild that I have created in the city. So they haven't even left the first city yet. We're about 8 games in, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Zoe, you mentioned how like you had a few negative experiences and that sort of put you off for a very long time. And I think, unfortunately, that's all you need, right? Like you need, like in a group of 5 people, you need one person to be an asshole, and that's all it takes for you to be like, maybe this isn't for me. So it's lovely hearing that, like, despite all of that, like you've got another shot at it, and like now you've created something magical, and like Megan, you're DMing, and it's wonderful. So focusing on that, do you guys have any like memorable moments from your games that you've played? I want to hear about them. The laugh tells me that there's many. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah, there are a lot. It's depending on how PG you want us to be. Because
you go crazy. It's all good.
Because of a lot of things that come up in our games are just terrible puns and things like that. And we actually have one of our players who writes down the best quotes from every game. They're the only notes he makes. He just writes down our quotes and sends them to us all at the end of the game. But,
that's awesome.
I feel like Zoe, you go for your best moment first. Go on.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Zoe, like, what do you play? What character do you play? And tell me more about them.
In Megan's campaign, I play a little pink tiefling thief. She's such a brat, and I love her.
She's a terrible rogue.
she's so terrible. She can't hear very well when she's trying to be perceptive. Her perception is pants. But she's cocky.
As any good rogue should be.
Yeah. She's cocky. She likes anything. She sort of sneaky and shiny, and she's a bit of a cliche, but yeah, I love her.
I think some cliches exist because they're like, it's good and it's fun, and that's why it exists, right? That's why it's popular, and I don't think there's anything like bad with it like that. So,
No,
are there any moments from the campaign where the characters should
I think maybe from your campaign, Megan, probably that amazing games night you set up for her. So we went to what is essentially a casino, but there was all of these amazing, like, carnival style games. So you do like knife throwing, you do some kind of like, was there a mechanical bull?
There was a mechanical bull. Yeah.
Lovely.
So much. And I had my like dexterous thief, and I was like, that's it, I'm going to own this. I'm going to own it. It's going to be great. No, she just rolled so badly, and by the end of the night, she was like drunk and face down in the mud. Yeah.
It's. I think she was beaten by one of the other characters. Is a very old man, and he won the assault course that they had to do, the obstacle course.
Oh, bless her. Yeah.
Bad rolls tell such great stories. Like, I love a terrible roll because it always leads to something amazing. But that's lovely. I love that. And
I think it knocked her down a few pegs, and she needed
it. That's great. So now that you guys have been playing for a while, and now that you have Women of D&D going, you've been back in the community for a while now. How have things changed for you guys? Like, have you noticed any difference in the community the time that you've been here? Like, how have things evolved from your perspective?
So I think it's interesting to watch. I almost feel, in terms of the timeline, I feel almost like I'm looking at something I wasn't involved in whilst it was happening, but it's like we're so new. We've only been here a year and a bit, but even in that time, you just see so many amazing people that are coming up in the community, and they're just like these inspiring creatives and the kind of voices we need to be hearing in the community. And it's great, and sort of being a small part of this wave is amazing. And I'm so happy to be a small part of this massive wave that's coming along in this community and just lifting it and making it better. Like, what's that quote? A rising tide lifts all ships. That, I love it.
Yeah.
It's the kind of with like Zoe said, we're not really old enough to have seen major change like happening behind us, but we're seeing it coming up, like as we're riding with this way with all these other amazing creators. Like, you're seeing the change on the horizon, like coming towards you, and it's just amazing, and it's so exciting to see.
It really is. It's interesting because I completely relate to that. I think I got into role playing when I was a kid. But then I found D&D like about 5 years ago or something. And since I started doing Nonagon Dice and I started doing Desis Dragons, I feel more of a part of the change. And you're right, it is a great feeling to be able to see how we play a role in creating something that is like evolved into something so much better than what it used to be. And like feeling like you're a part of the experience is great.
Just making that inclusive space, even in our little small corner, to be a part of that is, I don't know, it's an honour, I guess, to be in any way involved.
And it's so like just to be a little corner on our own, but like we're not on our own. That's the thing. We're a little piece here, and all you need is a lot of little pieces to become one huge thing. Like, that's all it takes. So
I think we all
amazing.
We all feel like we're tiny parts of it, but like, for me, for example, watching the two of you and what you guys have been doing is a big influence in like how I want to contribute back to the community. So like what you might think is like a small part, it actually might end up impacting someone else like me to a much greater extent. And I think that's great, like just seeing how impactful what you guys are doing is.
Thank you.
That's so great to hear. It's just like if we have an impact on one person, then I would consider it a mission successful. Like, that's all it takes, really.
100%. I kind of want to talk about your process a little bit for Women of D&D, right? how did, like, you mentioned that you guys decided, like, oh, can we do this? Should we do this? If you did, what was like sort of the events that led up to it? Was there anything specific on the way? And like, what were some challenges that you faced in the beginning of like, creating this?
I think when we were first starting out, I mean, trying to work out what we wanted to do was tricky. And we kind of came up with the idea of like featuring and interviews. And that sort of really worked because it was kind of along the same lines as those Follow Fridays you see every week on Twitter, but it was kind of taking it like one step further. And that was a really positive thing to sort of run with, and it's something we want to keep doing.
It kind of arrived organically, really. I don't even know if we had a full discussion of like what exactly are we going to do. It was just feature spots became like the best idea straight away between us. It was just like So like you said about the Follow Friday things, it's like maybe if you could get a bit more like intimate knowledge of people, it sort of, I don't know, it's just better that way. Like,
yeah, definitely. And like negatives, we've had like the occasional comment where you've got like normally some old white guy, and they just say, oh, well, I've had women at my table since the 70s. I don't see what the problem is. And it's just like...
And it's like, yeah, that's your experience.
Yeah.
Your experiences are not universal. So
yeah,
that's kind of what we want to call attention to.
Yeah, and we occasionally get called like the odd name, but it's nothing compared to what individuals face. And I think because we present ourselves as almost like an entity rather than a singular person, we probably get less of it than what individual people do. So I consider ourselves quite lucky in that respect, but also kind of want to find out what we can do to help more individuals because no one should face that.
Yeah. It's always such a bummer. And
I
think like it's also this area where you kind of have to zoom out to realize, like, sort of accept that what your experiences have been may not be true for a majority of the people who are part of the community now. And I've spoken to so many women who like felt uncomfortable or didn't want to partake in the community just because of like these inhibitions you have as a result of growing up as a woman and as a result of like being a part of a society that generally isn't very inclusive towards people like us. And so for you to create that space and for people to not realize that is terrible. Like how did you guys like start navigating that? Like when you first started seeing these comments?
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky that we haven't had too much of it. But I know at the beginning we had several discussions about should we use our names? How much of ourselves can we put into this? Sort of things like that, where we were discussing how much of ourselves are we happy to make public? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like this is the first interview we've ever done, so I guess this is the most public we've ever done.
Yeah. It was like kind of the concern was like, yeah, if you use your own name, your full name, put your face on there, then there is obviously these kind of projects always are a magnet for hate, which is tragic, really. It always happened. Yeah, but we were prepared for it. We knew that it's a possibility that it may happen. But as Zoe said, we've been quite lucky in that we haven't attracted any kind of serious negativity, either privately or in the public domain. So we're more comfortable. And I think I'm a bit of a kind of sort of half mother hen, half like mother bear. So when it comes to things like, I'm like, no, these are my babies. I want to protect them. I will be I'll take in the hate so that I can protect all these like smaller creators who they might be put off by the sort of if they get attacked or by anybody. And so I want us like this to be sort of like a shield to be like, no, we approve and we think you should go away. Like we'll absorb the hate so that they can continue doing what they do best.
That is incredibly brave, I have to say. That is it. But go on. So
I'd say like when it comes to sort of mistakes we've made as well, I think it's important to acknowledge that as well. So we've done little mistakes like sort of get people's names wrong and stuff like that. But I'd say the biggest mistake we probably made was like near the beginning of Women of D&D, we sort of made this sort of clumsy move to be more inclusive and just say, we represent all non-binary people. She's like, like support, standby, definitely. But there was this sort of moment where we thought it would be more inclusive. was clumsy. We're two cis het women who run a project called Women of D&D. Like, we definitely learned from that moment, and we were talking about it a lot at the time, and we were lucky enough to get sort of a couple of people, non-binary people, got in touch with us through Twitter, and we had this amazing conversation, and it was labor they shouldn't have had to do, but they got in touch, and we're eternally grateful for that.
Because I don't think we would have seen it in us. We reached out to try and attempt to be as inclusive. We overreached in a way.
Yeah, we massively overstepped, basically, because, I mean, not all non-binary people are going to want to be told, oh, yeah, you can join Women of D&D. Like, so it was kind of like this, from these conversations we had, it was kind of like this horrible light bulb moment where we kind of realized, oh, that makes perfect sense. Oh my God, what have we done? What have we been doing? So, yeah, we took some time. We sort of stepped back. We reassessed. We re-educated, most importantly. We kind of reworded everything we did because we only wanted to be like a positive in this community. And I think there was a moment there where for some people, we may not have been. So, towards the beginning of Women of D&D, there was that moment where I was just like, we got to update this, change this, and learn. So from that, we hopefully move forward to become that positive space. Welcome everyone who wants to be involved with Women in D&D, and not just say, we represent you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that.
We wanted to be there for the people who wanted us to be there for them.
Yeah.
We never want to speak over like marginalized voices or anything.
Exactly.
Pretending that we're the authority on it.
Yeah.
Precisely. So there was a moment there where it's just like, we need to do some more learning because this is not the space. This is not what we should be saying we do. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
So
we
definitely had some learning on our side as well, for sure.
It's great that you guys are able to sort of acknowledge that and understand like the changes you needed to make. And I completely relate. Like, it's gender is just such a it's so complex. There's so much to it that I don't think I fully understand yet. But like in order to try to be more inclusive, I think educating ourselves is important. And it's just brilliant that you guys were like, okay, let's take a moment, let's step back and figure out where we stand. It's great. That's lovely. And
thanks. It's just, we always want to be a positive space. And there was a moment there where it's just like, oh my goodness, maybe
maybe we like they might have hurt somebody, and that's the last thing we want to ever do. Like, is cause harm to anyone. So
exactly. So it was important for us to sort of acknowledge it,
and I think it speaks to the power of the TTRPG community as well. That the people who reached out to you were like, hey, maybe reconsider this, and like I think it's great that people like because I don't think it's anybody's responsibility to be like how do I explain this? For someone from a marginalized community to come in and say that, hey, maybe you want to, like, I think it's often a burden that a lot of marginalized communities feel, that they have to constantly explain themselves and stuff.
Exactly.
But for people to still come in and then, like, you know, be open to conversation, like come in with an open mind and talk to you guys, it's also brilliant. It just makes me love the space more.
It's like eternally grateful to that person to reaching out to us and telling us what we've done, because we may have continued doing that without even realizing. So and that person reaching out was very brave of them. I would not mention them by name, but what they did was really brave, and it really helped us, and we're like super grateful that they did what they did.
And on top of that, it's not labor that they should have had to do. No. They shouldn't have had to have done that. So, you know, it's totally on us. That was totally our mistake, and it's something I'm really glad we learned from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's definitely our most negative moment as Women of D&D. It was definitely okay, let's deal with this.
I want to go to the opposite now. Tell me about like what has been like a euphoric moment in running Women of D&D.
Ooh.
I mean, there's been a few moments where I'm like running, screaming around the house, just like.
Tell me all of them.
Probably that lovely message from Satine just reaching out saying, I love what you're doing. And we were like,
that was amazing. That was like, yeah, she messaged us first. It was just like, it was amazing.
Ryan.
Yeah. We were like, oh my God, it's Satine.
Like the powerhouse of women in D&D.
Yeah, she's such
that is a
hero. She's awesome.
She
and then just
sorry, go on.
No, you crack on.
No.
More waxing lyrical about Satine is fine with me.
Like she is like a pillar of like women in D&D, and for her to also be involved with you guys is like it just speaks to what great work you guys are doing. And I'm sorry if I keep saying that again and again because I really believe it and I just need you guys to know. All right.
Oh, I'm loving hearing it.
Yeah. Just take all of it. But go on, sorry.
I'd say our gift guides. We love doing our gift guides. They're so much fun. We might have another one coming out soon, maybe.
You heard it here first.
Literally did. And I think just seeing them cycle around the community on Twitter is it's so fun. And like when you see people like Mika Burton sharing your work and you're like, oh my God.
Like every like and every retweet from anyone is always an exciting moment because it's just like, yay, someone else liked what we're doing. Like, and every little bit is just such a great feeling. But we've had some pretty awesome interactions with some of the sort of, you know, the heavy hitters. Like, well, obviously we said Satine, and who else have we had? The I'm drawing a blank. Why I remember her name.
Beth the Bard. Beth the Bard was so great. So she works in a couple of the shows over at Gilding Light. We recently did an interview with her, and she probably
I read that
quotable interview ever. Oh my God, I think I wrote it down. I always have notes. I'm like the person in your D&D campaign who always has notes.
You and me both. I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't help myself. I love it.
Zoe is the most organized and also simultaneously disorganized person. She'll have 10,000 lists of to-do things. So she has it all organized, but she has far too much to do in a day.
Yeah.
Okay, which list do I pick today?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm creative and dyslexic. If I don't have a list, nothing gets done.
Fair enough.
But I was just thinking we had Devon Rue as a feature. Yeah, obviously taking time out of her like jam-packed schedule.
What an amazing cartographer.
Oh my God, yeah.
Her work is just
yeah. I think she's also been in our gift guides. And yeah.
Go on,
Beth the Bard's quote was when talking about women in the D&D space, she said, water that shit and watch it flourish. I want that on a t-shirt.
I read that and I was like, I like sat up. I was in my bed scrolling and I was like, hey, new interview. And I sat up and I was like, shit, I need to like do something now.
Right.
That line is just
so good. Like, so quotable.
Nails straight on the head, dead right. Yeah, obviously.
And then we have Lucia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Of Seer Swords. She was one of the contributors to Sina Una, which was an amazing book. Just sort of looking into Filipino mythology and sort of
which I think that stuff is just absolutely amazing. It's anything that is not the Eurocentric white fantasy history. Anything that's different is just amazing. So anything coming from anywhere else in the world, I want to see so much more of that.
Tell me about it.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
it's so great. All those kind of like things, and
it's really lovely. I was gonna ask you over the course of interviews, like, what are some memorable gems? But I feel like we've already like covered that.
Yes.
But it's great, man.
All of them.
All
of them.
Yeah.
Because
you can't really pick a favourite. Yeah.
I know. Like, they normally, because a lot of the people we interview are like from America or from somewhere in the world, but the time difference is part of it. So they'll ping over their interview. And it's normally when I'm like in bed and it doesn't matter what time it is. I'm like, and I open it up and I read it, and I'm like, it's so good. It's so good. And I'm texting Megan like, it's so good.
That's lovely. I can't imagine what the feeling would be like to get those responses.
It's never not exciting.
And like anyone who reads our interviews will spot that we ask a lot of the similar or same questions to lots of different feature spots as well, and every woman's experience is different, and that's what I think is super key and so good about them, is that every new one that comes in, it's like, oh my god, I never thought about it that way, or oh yeah, that's a really good point, or I've never heard that before, or I can't believe that happened, or something. It just layers and layers and layers of experiences.
That's it. Like we're all playing essentially the same game, but we've all got all these different stories to tell, and it's all about the story at the end of the day, and everyone's backgrounds feeds into that, and it's just it's never-ending information, and I love it.
It's like D&D in real life.
Yeah. It's like sort of beating all these NPCs, but these NPCs that are much more fleshed out than any of mine NPCs.
I think you guys have done some incredible things so far, and I know you guys will continue to do it. But do you have any specific plans for like the future of D&D? Like anything?
I refer to my notes.
Go for it. Take your time.
Well, as they say, but this is the exact sort of question that we ask. You've been on the receiving end of our questions before, so you know the sort of things we ask people, and it's what do you see for the future? And I think just for what we were saying about being part of this wave, and just the wave to get bigger and faster and stronger and louder, like that sort of big, huge goal is just to see that happening. That's kind of a bit of a sort of ephemeral answer, but
just sort of
I get that.
It's happening, but we can't wait to a point where it's not a happening, it's a normal. Do you know what I mean? Where everyone's voices are heard, and it's not a thing, and there's not some weird troll saying, oh, this shouldn't happen, this voice shouldn't be heard. Just I want that to just go away, and for everyone to just be at the same level. Like the people who are making all these incredible stories and add-ons and things, they shouldn't be making add-ons. They should be making it from the top down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These people need to be hired at the top. They shouldn't be filling in gaps.
Yeah, because the gap shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, isn't it? And it's the even I want like it to be that in the future that even the concept of trying to tear down an independent creator doesn't even cross people's minds. Or if someone does try it, they are immediately like shunned and shut down. It's like, no, you shush, because this person's doing amazing work.
Yeah, exactly. It's just you want that snowball to keep growing. I think you want more voices to be heard, and I don't know. It's just. I'd really like to see more. It's the only way I can put it. It's such a broad, non-specific way of putting it, but just more, more from the top down of everyone's voices on a level playing field.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right there with you guys. That's a very poignant way of putting like what D&D or the TTRPG space like ideally look like. And I think there's a lot of work to be done, but it's great to see the amount of progress we've made so far and like strides that we've seen people like us make in this space. But do you think there are ways we can actively work towards this? What would you say like to Desis and Dragons? Our audience is primarily Indian, right? And it's a very small but budding TTRPG community. I think, like a child, when it's youngest, that's when you want to inculcate it with values and lessons that they carry as it grows. And that's what sort of in those formative years. So for a formative year of a small growing community, what do you think people like us could be doing to work towards these hopes that you have?
I think support, shouting about these people, and kind of what we're doing. But if you've got the spare cash, buy what they're selling. If you've got 5 minutes to just wax lyrical about them on Twitter, just raise the voices up. Like, it's all about getting these.
Yeah. any tiny contribution makes a difference. Like even if you can only afford to subscribe to like one Patreon for £1 or $1 a month or whatever like that, just those little steps make the difference, because the more people do that, the more other people take notice. So like it's you know, it runs together. All small rivers become a mighty stream at some point, and then, you know, so it's important that all these little actions keep going. So yeah, like Zoe said, if you can spare the money, support these creators. If you can get on Kickstarter, if you can get if you can't afford it, just talk about it. Just talk about it on Twitter, on social spaces, in your own D&D group. Like just say, hey, like when you go, hey, I saw this awesome thing. You should see this. Let's try it. Let's get our friends to try it. Like,
and I think, in a way, kind of to flip it as well, to challenge things you see that are negative in the space are almost just as important. So you do have that person in your D&D group who is making the jokes they shouldn't make, is saying the things that are making other people at the table uncomfortable. Just say it. Just say the words. I know it's tough, but things like safety tools, things like that are going to make such a big difference now and going forward. That needs to be standardized. Especially if you're joining a group you found online. You don't know them. They're not your best friends. Like things like safety tools are what's going to make people feel more comfortable in these spaces. And that's what it's all about.
Like absolutely vital. Yeah. Absolutely vital. Like safety tools and things, and not being, I mean, I know it's easy for some people to say like, oh, you shouldn't be afraid to speak up, but sometimes if you feel that you can, like usually the rest of the group are there with you. If there is only one person who's the target, they just need someone to say something first. That's the thing. Before you know it, everyone will agree that this is not okay. You need to stop doing this. If it's for like an individual, you know. So if you've got the ability to speak up, then use your voice. It's your like biggest power, you know. It's a magic spell, being able to use your voice. So.
Yeah, it's just making sure you are acting in a way you want the TTRPG space to be. You know what I mean? Sort of represent the space you want it to be if you're part of that.
What's the phrase? Be the change that you want to see.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I think often there are people, I think I also fell into this at one point where I was like, I'm too small of a hub to be able to make a change. And me talking to one person like, hey, maybe that's not cool, isn't going to change the larger problem. And I think that's a mentality that a lot of us get stuck into, where we're always worried that, like, what does this do ultimately, right? Like, what does me speaking up now do? It's uncomfortable, and like that feeling of it not being significant enough is, I think, something we constantly fight with. And despite that discomfort, I think, you know, speaking up and like raising voices for marginalized communities, and like speaking up for people that have inherent sort of prejudices against them that they need to fight is really important. And these are great things that you guys have said.
It's just on a larger scale. If you can make one person think twice about saying something or doing something they shouldn't do, and if that next group did the same, and then the next group did the same, and then it goes on and on and on until it's, you know, it's global. So that's what's the most vital thing.
That's so true. I have goosebumps. I wanted to ask you guys about the changes that we're seeing in the D&D space specifically. Are you guys aware of how they're changing how race works and how classes work, and like how it's much more customizable now, and there aren't like these certain stereotypes that are attached? And I see these kind of changes happening in the community as well, right? Where like the people who are making like Wizards of the Coast, for example, is doing something to be like, okay, hey, we messed up, and like maybe this is the right approach, and fixing that. And I think that's great. Like, do you guys have any specific opinions on like these kind of changes that are coming from the top as well?
I think that can only be a positive thing. Like if you're taking, but I mean, if you look back, you've got negative stats on certain races.
Yeah.
The fact that they're making these changes is a positive thing. And I actually saw something on Twitter the other day, and I can't remember who posted it, I feel terrible. But it was about changing the idea of languages, in that you won't have like a dwarf language or an elf language. You'll have languages based on lands, which makes so much more sense.
100%, yeah.
The patch of land, rather than, oh, you're an elf, you obviously speak this language. Which So I think changes like that are just going to make a much more positive space, and it makes more sense. Like, definitely.
I think massively, like the changes coming from the top and the changes also coming from the bottom as well. Like, well, not the bottom, but from like everywhere, is the idea that no one class or race or background or whatever should have inherent characteristics.
Yeah.
Because there's no one in reality has inherent characteristics. Every individual is different. And the beauty of TTRPGs and D&D is that you can pick and choose and build something that is either just like you or completely the opposite of you, or some weird dream creation that you came up with and you thought was hilarious. Like, that's the point of the game. So having any of these inherent like automatic sort of buffs or negatives or whatever is not it's not what the game's about, really. I feel like now it's ridiculous. Like, it's just seems silly to have to limit yourself in a game that uses our imaginations, which
it's unnecessary. Like, why are you putting that in?
Why are you restricting what should be limitless?
Exactly.
That's what's fun about the game, and the changes that are coming. I mean, the most recent and significant thing that I think I've seen was Mustang Art. Was absolutely fantastic work. They created the combat wheelchair.
Yes.
Was absolutely amazing. It's an awesome supplement. I am totally going to use it in my game at some point. Like, I'll find a place where it can be, because it's just, and more than one as well. And seeing it immediately rise to the top, and like Matthew Mercer used it in his game, it's just like, it's brilliant. It's such a genius idea, and I love that sort of thing. Like, these kind of things that create different able bodies, different it's just amazing. Like, different sexualities, genders, like anything that's blended, because it can be anything. It's a fantasy world, so it can be anything you want it to be. So,
and people should be able to see themselves in the game.
Yeah.
Like, why should you not? Why would you put a limit on that?
Yeah.
It's a fantasy world. Everyone can be themselves, or everyone can be whatever they like. Don't limit people.
Yeah.
It's a game. It's a fantasy game.
Yeah, so seeing these little changes happen, like with the I think it's with the top down, with them taking away the kind of evil characteristics of certain races and traits, and allowing more sort of diversity in the games is a good positive change. I mean, coming
more
from the
needed.
More is needed. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Like, we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But if you go back to the first editions of Dungeons and Dragons, when it was women were inherently weaker. If you wanted to play a female character, you had to have a strength negative, and you had to have I think it was beauty tables.
Yes.
I think so, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah.
What's that all about? But I would say, okay, include that in the game, but make it apply to everyone. So, like, because you can still use that mechanic if you want to, but it shouldn't just be inherently on like women. Like, that's ridiculous. It should be for everybody. Like,
exactly.
Whatever. And we made that change. Now it's like, nowadays that doesn't exist, but we're hopefully going on to the future. We'll see more changes like that.
Yeah.
I think there are so many great voices that have like led to these changes happening. Like, what upsets me sometimes is seeing people like, oh, this is not the way it was done. This is not what DD is like, or this and that, and it's just like, dude, just it's a imaginary game that you're playing in your head. Like, get over yourself,
Exactly. This is not the way it's done. By who?
Yeah, who's the authority?
You've got a magical axe, but you can't be yourself.
I can shoot like fire out of my finger, but I can't have a combat wheelchair. I've seen people talk negative things about that, and I'm like, what are you on about, bitch?
Exactly.
Yes.
You can, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Really, it's just ridiculous.
It's definitely one of those things. I think it's great to just. I think if we just said these things out loud, you just realize how ridiculous this sounds. And I wish people were more sort of self-aware. We're like, are you hearing yourself? Have you given it some time? Do you want to reconsider that?
Do you want to play that back and just think for a second?
Oh, man. Are there any things in your games that you guys do differently from, say, what rules is written, or things that in your game that you've done to sort of create the kind of D&D that you want to see?
We have one house rule that we have used that I think it's not an uncommon one. It's with crits. It's just because there's nothing more disappointing than rolling a natural 20 and then rolling a 1 for your crit. Yeah. So we have the house rule where you take the maximum of your die and then roll. So that's always a nice satisfying house. But I can't think if we have anything more sort of odd that we do. I don't know if you can remember any time.
I can't. And in terms of changing things, I think it's more so sort of with the character creation side of things. If someone's building something, they come across something that is limited in any way and they don't want it to be, we just talk it out, because it's just well, that shouldn't be there. Simple. That's the role of it being a game. You play it how you want to play it, but at the end of the day, those limits shouldn't be there in the first place. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can't think of anything specifically off the top of my head.
Oh, that was something actually that I did allow in my game in character building. I didn't like that when you had mixed races, it was always something and human. Something and human.
That's true.
That really bothered me, because it was sort of why is it always something and human? Why do you have to be half human, half orc, half human, half demon, half whatever? I was like, okay, so in my game, I allowed everybody to mix whichever they wanted to be. And we actually have a half tiefling, half orc barbarian in our game. But I told him that he had to pick a limited list of abilities from those classes, because obviously you can't have someone who has hellish rebuke and fire resistance and relentless endurance. That would just be massively overpowered. So we limited it a little bit, but it was the idea he just wanted it for the aesthetic and for the story, to say hey, why can't my character be a little bit of both? Because that's just way cooler. Like an orc with huge horns. That's awesome. Yeah.
And it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, why would it always just be human?
Only have children with humans? Terrible.
Humans are the worst.
I've actually never considered this until you said that, Megan, and it makes so much sense. I'm a bit front. I'm shit, right? It's always half human. Before I let you guys go, I wanted to ask you, is there anything that I haven't covered that you guys want to talk about in terms of Women of D&D, what you guys are doing, what you plan on doing? Anything you want to shout out? Let our people know.
So we have so many plans. We have so many plans. We have a Trello board set up.
Mm-hmm. But let's
Trello. Get out of hand. There's so many things we want to do.
There's the difference between we have things that are in the works for next week and things that are in the work for in about 5 years.
Wow, that's a long
scale.
That is long.
But there's these big voids in between. That we're I don't know how we'll get from here to there, but we will somehow.
I think sort of for me moving forward, a big one would be just sort of more projects where we can be raising money for important organisations and charities. We've done a little bit of that in the past, but
our charity fundraiser went so well, and it was.
I know.
Tell me more about it.
Okay.
Okay, so we had some generous donations from creators in and around the community. We ended up with, I think, 9 prizes, was it?
Oh, I'll check. Hang on. There was a lot.
There was a lot of
brilliant.
Away. Yeah, absolutely amazing. We just reached out for a few people to say, hey, if you can, this would be great. And the responses we got was awesome. And it was, we chose 3 women-centric charities. It was IMCAN UK, Our Streets
Our
Now,
Streets Now,
and
and Plan UK,
who were all in sort of different vibes. Like the Our Streets Now was all about anti-street harassment and introducing new laws to prevent it. IMCAM was about things that affect Black and minority ethnic women in the UK specifically, and then Plan UK, which was more for women at like period poverty in other countries and things. So we had those 3 charities that people could pick from to say which one you think best represents you, or maybe you would want to choose to support. And everyone that donated was put into a prize draw, and 9 lucky winners got drawn out of the hat and won some prizes from our awesome people in the community. And I can't quite remember what our final total was and what we managed to raise. I think we ended
can't remember off the top of my head. It was in the hundreds.
Some people were incredibly generous.
Yeah.
Unbelievable the response that we got.
Yeah.
And I think off the top of my head, I think we raised about £400, £400 for IMCAN alone.
Remember.
So
and also not everyone shared how much they donated. So it's an unspecific number anyway.
But every amount counts, right? Like every donation counts.
Exactly. And then it just led to a week of just pinging prizes off. I felt like on Christmas. It was great.
Awesome. Are you guys planning on doing something similar again? Because I would love to, if you guys would have it, I would love to contribute like a set of dice to the prize pool.
That would be amazing. That would be so amazing. We definitely have plans to do these sorts of things again, bigger and better than the last time. More charities, more money raisers, more prizes, more contributors. Just as we said before, more, everything.
Give me more.
We want to be a positive force, and if we can raise money.
No, it's great. I think it's important that we need to have that sort of like we fought for. I think this is the one space where we can like get away with being bratty. So.
But that's just one set of plans. I think, like, Zoe, what was it you've been saying about like conventions and consultancy and things like that? I definitely like to do something with conventions, but I think that's a little bit way off for us. That's not happening tomorrow for various reasons, COVID being one of them. But yeah, that would be really nice to sort of turn up at a convention as Women of D&D, maybe just provide, if it's possible, to provide some kind of safe space for people, because conventions can be a lot. So it would be quite nice to sort of provide a space, even if it's just a little stall and it's sort of somewhere people can go and it's quiet and chilled. And, that was an idea I'd had. I think other plans eventually, like somewhere down the line, we may launch a website. That's like a dedicated website. We want to create a network of women creators.
Right.
So if someone wanted to find specific creators, if the creator that we featured wants to be on there, we can have like a network, a directory where people can search and find these creators and things, so that again it's more support, more getting the word out about people. That's another kind of big plan. That's another one of the, sort of down the line. Yeah, it's on the Trello. If
it's on Trello, it's gonna happen. So
it will happen eventually.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Helping people in the community find work, because some people, the stuff they're producing is already amazing, and they need to be out there making it a full-time job. Do you know what I mean? Like, so many people are out there wanting to turn this into a full-time job, and if there's anything we can do to kind of help them find them and make that a reality, that'd be amazing.
That is incredible. And I think the part about building a community and network is we are stronger together, right? Like every voice that uplifts another one just is like we are all stronger together. And to facilitate that, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I cannot wait. I mean, no pressure, but I can't wait.
You'll be the first to know, we promise that.
Thank you. Awesome. I'm glad. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having us. It's been a pleasure. This is great. This is my first ever interview. Yeah.
Which is, I gotta say, I'm pretty chuffed, pretty proud. I'm gonna brag about this for a few days now, but thank you so much for being here. You guys are amazing, and I look up to both of you, and I'm so glad to be able to have done this.
That's so nice to hear. But we are nothing without the people that we feature. Exactly. It's the women out there who make us, who we are. Yeah, exactly. 110%.
So people like you know, you
Exactly.
see on page. So
I'm gonna try to take that. My brain is like not letting me, but I will try. Thank you.
But yeah,
I would love to have you guys on for a game sometimes on Desis and Dragons if you guys would be interested.
I would totally be interested.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Super cool.
Okay, cool. I will make sure that happens.
Yes.
Thank you so much. For everybody who joined us for this interview, thank you. Please go check out Women of D&D if you haven't already. They are incredible, amazing. I'm going to put that Lady Gaga gif somewhere. Have you guys seen it? Where she's called incredible, amazing, show-stopping, this, that. They're basically that gif. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you, Zoe and Megan. I am so honored to be able to do this.